I don't want to start this episode without talking about the significance of today. This episode is being posted on June 19th. This day is a day for us to observe a very important part of America's history, to celebrate the ending of a horrible, awful, evil time in our country's history. Today, on Juneteenth, we commemorate the ending of slavery in the United States. Hello and welcome back to Spill the Ranch, where you get your fill of spilled ranch, aka tea or gossip. I'm feeling a little spicy today and a lot saucy. And do you want to know why? Well, it is because we made it to Wednesday. That's right. After today, we've only got 2 more work days in the work week. Well, you only have 2 more days in the work week. Couldn't possibly be me. I'm a teacher on summer break. And so clearly, I'm not working, but the fact that you guys all only have 2 more work days after today is reason enough to celebrate, don't you think? I think so. So let's get into today's episode. It is so saucy. I'm so excited. But first, don't forget to give this podcast a review on Spotify if you enjoy it and you want to see more of it. Giving the podcast a review just really helps me out. So thank you in advance if you are able to do that. And also give me a follow on Instagram at Noelle Loves Sloths and at Spill the Ranch. Those are the two Instagram handles. Obviously, the Spill the Ranch is the podcast specific Instagram, and then Noelle of Sloths is just my personal public Instagram. So if you want to see more of my life and things like that and updates, then go ahead and follow my Instagrams. So last week, I really enjoyed reading your crazy school and teaching stories. So I'm actually going to be doing that again for most of today's episode because there were just so many stories that I feel needed to be shared. And there were hundreds of submissions. So obviously we're not going to go through every single one, but there were so many good stories and I can't wait to get into those. However, it has been a couple weeks since I have gotten a chance to catch up with you guys. So let's catch up. So where have I been? If you do follow me on Instagram, you may have noticed that last week I was in a different habitat and I went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee with my fiance Zach with his whole family. And if you aren't familiar with Gatlinburg, it is a mountain town about an hour outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, and it is in the Smoky Mountains. So we were with Zach's whole family and we stayed in the most beautiful mountain cabin. You guys, it was literally in the mountains. We had to drive up 2 miles of windy roads just to get to it, but it was all so beautiful and we had the best view. So if you do follow me on Instagram, you may have seen I think I posted a couple stories of the gorgeous, gorgeous view. And something that was really cool, and a lot of people might not know this about this part of Tennessee, but it's one of the highest concentrated areas that has black bears. And so everywhere we went, pretty much we saw black bears if we were in the mountain area. And there were so many black bears that just walked right through our yard. We saw a mama bear with her 3 cubs, which was so cute. She actually tried climbing up our house because Zach's nephew said something and we think she heard him or something. I don't know. It was kind of funny. Really cute. But one thing about bears, just because we saw them a lot, they're very used to humans. We saw them literally come up to our cars and try and open the car door. They're that smart. They know that people might leave food in cars. And so, but here's the thing, they are still wild animals. So if you do ever see a bear, don't go up to it and try to pet it. Definitely keep your distance. And if you do keep your distance, there's a good chance they'll just go away. But yeah, so that was really cool. I had never seen a bear in real life before. And what else? We went to Dollywood, which is an amusement park. And it's all Dolly Parton themed. It was so cool. It was very Southern themed kind of. It was just really, really, really cute. And we rode rides literally from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We were riding rides. We got fast passes, and so we skipped the lines on most of the rides, which was really nice. And so that was really fun. I literally got so many steps in that day, like 15,000 steps, which, like, not bragging, but that was like pretty good. Um, and yeah, it was a really fun trip. We did a lot of fun things. We played some mini golf. We did some other, Tennessee type things. It was just cool to spend some time in the Smoky Mountains. I'd never been there before, and it was a really fun time. The only downside was that we drove and it was a 13-hour drive. So that drive home definitely felt long, because on the way there we stopped in St. Louis, so that like broke the trip up a little bit, but on the way home we just drove straight home 13 hours, and it was a little tiring, but it was definitely worth it. It would have been kind of difficult to fly there, so we did what we had to do. Another great thing about this trip was I got to meet so many sweet followers, viewers. I don't know one time I called them fans, and like so many people got mad at me for saying fans. I don't know why. So I got to meet a lot of followers and viewers of my videos, which usually when I go on vacation, I don't know why, but that's like where I typically get recognized the most, is like when I go to very highly concentrated areas, of course, which makes sense. But got to meet so many sweet viewers. And so if you were someone who was able to come up to me and say hi, thank you. I love you guys so much. It was so nice to meet so many of you. And it's just always a good time to meet people who support me, and it's just a really cool thing, because I wouldn't be where I'm at without them, of course. So that was really sweet and fun. Going off of kind of piggybacking off of things to do in Tennessee, I want to talk a little bit about Moonshine. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I would compare it to whiskey. So it's a type of liquor, and there are so many different flavors. And while we were there, we did 2 different moonshine tastings at 2 different places. So in Gatlinburg, I believe there's only 3 different places you could do this at. So basically, it's at a moonshine liquor store. Like, we went to one called Sugarlands and one called Old Smoky, and in those like shops you can buy shirts and like a bunch of different swag, but you can also buy their different flavors of whiskey, or not whiskey. Well, they have whiskey there, but it's moonshine. Anyways, and so we did a couple moonshine tastings. So basically what that is in these stores, they have a few different like bars, and you walk up to the bar and you could we paid anywhere from like $5 to $10 to do the tasting. The cheapest one was only $5, and you get to taste 12 different types of their moonshine, which that seems like a lot. They pour it into tiny little shot glasses. It's like, really, it's not a full shot. It's like a fourth of a shot. But, I mean, by the end, you've still tried 12. So it's like you get a little bit of a buzz, but, it was fun trying all their flavors. Some of my favorite flavors were Eggo waffle, cookies and cream. And those were like cream liqueurs. And they also had spicy pickles. So literally, it was a jar of pickles, but like the juice that it's soaked in is moonshine. So when you eat the pickle, you can kind of taste the moonshine, but I liked that because it mostly just tasted like a pickle. I also they had blackberry, and my favorite one was sour blue raspberry. You can't really taste the alcohol in those so much, which I liked. But it's a really fun time because like the guy who's doing the tasting, like who's pouring everything for you, he was like super entertaining, cracking jokes the whole time, just kind of explaining each flavor and things like that. So it was just kind of a fun thing to do. Of course, only if you're over 21. But it was a fun thing for us adults to do. So that was a good time. And Zach and I I think we bought like 6 different flavors, and we brought them all home. And we did a little moonshine tasting party at our house with a few of our friends the other night. And that was kind of fun to see them get to try it. So I think that's kind of it about all the Tennessee stuff. But, and Zach and I both bought nice pairs of cowboy boots. And so that was kind of fun because I've never owned like a nice pair of cowboy boots, and I've always wanted a pair. A lot of people in Kansas City wear cowboy boots Kansas City is obviously not considered like cowboy boot country, I wouldn't say, but a lot of people around here do wear them, and it's really nice to have them for country, music festivals and concerts and stuff. And we are actually going to Country Stampede in Kansas City to see John Party like 2 weeks from now. So yeah, I got those. And Zach's pair is actually like really nice. I'm really excited that he got those. He looks very good in his cowboy boots. So yeah, we're back in Kansas City now. It is so hot here. When we left, it was like 70s and 80s every day, and now we're back and it's in the 90s every day. So despite the heat, I do try to make sure to get out every day for a walk, because it just makes me feel good, and I just feel like walking is really good for you. And anyways, let's get into the crazy school and teaching stories. You guys, I'm so excited about these. I have 6 stories today that I'm going to share and then kind of talk about. And some of these are actually kind of insane, and I'm so excited to share with you. So let's start with the first story. We are coming out strong here. So I have my iPad. I'm going to be reading these stories. All right. So basically, when I was in 9th grade, my English teacher and my science teacher were dating. This was not a secret, but one day I was helping for the dance after school, and I saw my science teacher kissing the principal. At first, I thought that I was seeing wrong, so I didn't say anything. Anyways, we found out the next year that the principal was cheating with most of the female teachers. When I say I was shocked, that doesn't even come close to describing how weird it felt, knowing that all my female teachers had been with him. Oh my gosh. Okay. Lots of things to unpack here. So, wow. So this person who submitted this story was in 9th grade. So they were in high school at the time. High schoolers, they know what's going on. Like, they pick up on things, obviously. Okay. So first thing I want to talk about is teachers dating each other. So I work at a decently like small school. And so, it's in kind of a small town. And we have a lot of teachers at our school that are married to each other, or dating each other. Actually, no, not just dating. I think there's one couple that's engaged, or maybe they're married now. I think they may have gotten married. But we have several teachers who their partners, their spouses, work either in the district or at the same school. And so I'm definitely very used to seeing that. But like, you wouldn't, apart from them having the same last name, you usually wouldn't really know, because sometimes they spend time together. There are some couples that do, but not all of them do. So that's not that weird. Just like kind of this person said, it wasn't a secret that they were dating. But okay, there's so many things wrong with this, because one, it's the principal, that this is an abuse of power. The principal sleeping with his teachers. Ugh, so gross. Just the fact, I am a teacher, so just thinking about that is a very like gross thing to think about. Ugh. Yeah. Back to the fact that there's a lot of teachers I work with whose spouses work at our school as well. A lot of them are married, not because they worked together. I think many of them grew up in the town, and a lot of them are high school sweethearts, or like they knew each other from college and then they end up getting married and then they decide to work at the same school. So most of them don't meet through school, I don't think. But yeah, I don't even know what to say on that. It's gross. It's unprofessional. That doesn't even do it justice. Like, that principal should be fired. Because that is like that. I think that goes against a lot of written and unwritten rules, probably. Wow. That's like, let me know if I got like multiple stories where there were teachers and principals commingling, and like, let me know if that happened. If you've ever heard of that happening at your school, because I sure as heck have not heard of that happening at a school I grew up at or where I teach. So that's crazy. I'm trying to think if like there's anything else I want to say on this matter. Yeah, abuse of power, principals, they're there to set a good example, first of all, for the teachers and for the kids. They are there to, you know, lead the school and be a resource for teachers and students. They are there to protect students and teachers. And what this principal did goes against everything that a principal should be. Principals should be positive adults in the building. And the fact that like this came out, I really hope they fired him. And because if they didn't, that's like really messed up. But wow, like I don't even know what else to say. So let's move on to story number 2. When I was in kindergarten, my bus was driving through a construction zone in my neighborhood. We took this corner, and all of a sudden, the back half of the bus just plummeted about 15 to 20 feet below street level. Our bus driver didn't realize the corner section of the road she was turning on had been removed, and it was a large enough opening that our back left tires went first, and the bus was stuck sideways with the exit door on the right side of the bus facing up toward the sky. We eventually were rescued after about an hour, and we were late to school. But shout out to the bus driver. She kept us all calm by playing I Spy and telling us that the street must have been hungry for a bus and decided to eat us. The imagination we had as kids made that even funnier at the time. First of all, this is traumatizing. So this student was in kindergarten when it happened. I mean, I used to ride the bus when I was young, and I would have never like expected something like that to happen. Like, I feel like the bus is where you normally feel like you should feel safe as a kid. And so the fact that like something like this happened would be really traumatizing, I think, for a lot of kids. I think it would be hard for a lot of kids to get back on a bus after that. It doesn't say that anybody got hurt, so hopefully nobody really got hurt. But 15 to 20 feet, I mean, that's a lot. That's a long way to like all of a sudden just like plummet down. And I think the craziest part about this story is that the students still had to go to school. Excuse me? They still had to go to school. I guess when I really think about it, maybe their parents like couldn't come pick them up. But I feel like if I were a parent, I'd be like, okay, I'm taking the rest of the day off. I'm going to go pick up my kid and we're going to go out to lunch and spend the day together. And I would just probably want to make sure my kid is like, okay. The fact that they still had to go to school was kind of crazy. There's a lot of things going on in this story. Like the bus driver, obviously this is an accident. Nobody's perfect. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the bus driver's fault, because if they were driving through a construction zone, the bus driver was probably unfamiliar with it. And I just want to say thank you to all the bus drivers out there, because you guys put up with the kids before and after school. They're rowdy, especially after school. And there's not really anybody else. There's no other adult to watch these kids while you're driving. So while you're driving, you also have to make sure that these kids are not acting up in the back of the bus. And you don't have eyes in the back of your head. The only thing you have is a mirror to try and see what they're up to back there. And so thank you to bus drivers. We don't have enough bus drivers. Like, seriously, we need bus drivers, and I can see why people don't want to do it anymore. Like, it's a really hard job, and I just want to say thank you to bus drivers. I think this was a complete accident. Of course, obviously, the bus driver was not trying to get in an accident. And I appreciate the way that she tried to keep them calm afterwards. I'm sure like that bus was just crazy, insane. I'm sure all the kids were going crazy, but the fact that the bus driver had, some things to, some games to play with them and some funny things to say that kind of put them at ease a little bit, I think just goes to show that that bus driver really cared about the kids, and that she, she wanted to make sure they were all okay. And so, shout out to the bus driver. Seriously, like if I was in that situation, I would be freaking out. And I think the biggest thing to remember when you're an educator or anybody who works with kids, so that includes bus drivers, anybody that's around kids, when there is something happening, like when there is something going on that could cause panic with kids, if you're the adult in the room, you need to do your best to stay calm, because if you don't stay calm, then the students are not going to stay calm. But if you are able to compose yourself, that will help keep the panic at a low level, even if there is something going on that could induce panic. So really good job on the bus driver staying calm and helping the kids stay calm. I think I do think what the bus driver said was funny. Oh, the street must have just been hungry and they wanted to try to eat us. Like, that's funny. And I'm sure it made the kids laugh. And yeah, all credit goes to that bus driver. In a really scary situation like that, in an accident, like you never know when something like that could happen. And I think I'm sure the school driver or the bus driver composed herself really, really well. So shout out to that bus driver for real. I mean, I just can't thank bus drivers enough for all they do for our kids. They transport us or the kids to and from school safely. And most of the time, unless there's an accident, of course, but usually that doesn't happen. And so thank you to the bus drivers. Let's move on. Whoa, excuse me. Let's move on to our next story. Okay, story number 3. I had, oh my God, why can't I talk? I need some water. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. I had a really tricky student this past year in first grade. I was pregnant and I would be leaving in November for maternity leave. The student's grandparents, who take care of him, told me that they wanted to switch him out of my class because their daughter, which would be the student's mother, had a teacher go on maternity leave in third grade, and it ruined her whole life, and she was never able to learn again. They said she was never the same after, and they feared this would happen to him. I came back from leave, and he gave me problems all school year, and they kept blaming it on me leaving and told me I was a liar and he was a good kid and he was not doing all of the naughty things I said he was doing. I told them he was hitting other kids, acting out in class, and making others cry, and many other things of the sort. I sent her an email, the mother, an email saying he was making fart noises during story time, and she wrote me back saying, oh, now he was just practicing his duck calls. She made excuses for him all year long, and the kid was a compulsive liar. Okay. So there's a lot of different parts here that I want to talk about. And I'm not like necessarily fighting for either side or arguing for either side. Of course, I am a teacher, and when a teacher tells you that your kid is doing something, they're not lying about it. They're trying to get support from you, and that's why they're telling you. And so I don't like that the mom dismissed, the teacher's reports about the kid. Obviously, like there's no reason why a teacher would lie about that. But I would like to say I understand. I think I understand where the parent and the grandparents are coming from, although I do think it may have been a little bit dramatic. but I understand why they would be concerned for the child, because maybe the child has issues with inconsistency. And so I totally understand what they're saying about that. I mean, because when a teacher leaves for maternity leave, that's usually for like 2 months, 3 months. And so she probably was gone from November until after winter break, would be my guess. So that teacher would have been gone for 2 months. That's a long time. And especially that kid had a chance to really get to know you, really got to know their teacher, and then the teacher is just all of a sudden gone. And so that does create some inconsistency. And so especially for young kids, it's really good to have consistency for them. So I understand why this child's guardians were a little concerned. But I do think that maybe they should have gone to administration to talk about it and let administration handle it. Either way, whether the kid was being transferred to another class or not, they would have been with a new teacher. So I guess it kind of doesn't really make sense that much. But still, either way, the kid had multiple different teachers. That might have been really hard for him. The fact that the grandparents, I guess the kid lived with the grandparents, but that they said that their daughter, so the mom, what was it? Was never able to learn again, I think may have been a little dramatic, but maybe they were just really trying to get their point across. Either way, I really think that a teacher knows best for their students, and it's important to hear them out. And again, I only have what this person submitted. So I'm not taking either side. I think that the kid being a problem for the whole rest of the year, that's like almost 6 months, and, causing problems, hitting other kids, like that is not okay. Admin should have been notified, and I'm sure the teacher notified them, just didn't put it in here. But, if you get a call from your child's teacher telling you that they are hitting other children, you should immediately be asking, what can I do to support you? How can I help? How can I, help my child be better in the classroom? So definitely, there's lots of moving parts to that story, but yeah, saying the kid was a compulsive liar, I mean, they're like 7 years old. So maybe they weren't really trying to. Maybe kids that age, they mimic their parents. So none of this is the kid's fault. And that's important to remember as an educator. It's really never the child's fault. Of course, there are exceptions to this, especially once they are teenagers, but children cannot help how they were raised. And so that's a really important thing to remember, is to not place blame on these children. Even teenagers are children ultimately, and they can't help who raised them or how they were raised or what environment they were raised in. And all of that plays a part in how they act outside of their home. So that's a really important thing to remember. So let's move on to our next story. All right, this one blows my mind and makes me angry. It's a little bit shorter. One time when I was a sophomore, my math teacher told me I would never graduate and I would end up on the streets. So the day I graduated, I sent him a picture of my diploma and emailed my story to the superintendent, and he got fired. Okay. I can't believe a teacher would ever say that to a student. That's not something a teacher should ever say. So shout out to the person who submitted this. Congratulations on graduating. Like, it's no easy thing to graduate for anybody. And the fact that this teacher was putting down one of his students, that is so wrong. And I hope this person, well, he got fired. I hope this teacher is not teaching anymore. And if he is teaching, I hope he has really learned his lesson and is nothing but a positive light in the lives of his students and only saying positive things to them. because to say something like this, that they will never graduate and they won't amount to anything, that is the exact opposite of what you should do. And now, I am a teacher. Have I made a million mistakes as a teacher? 100%. You need to learn from them. So if this person is still teaching, I really hope they have learned from this, because as an educator, what we are there to do, why we teach, is we want to encourage, inspire, assist, and educate. And we want to do all of those things for every single one of our students, no matter if we aren't sure if they're going to get there. But it is our job to encourage them to reach their full potential, because if we don't, who's going to? Who's going to help them do that? That's what we're here for. That's why we devote our lives to education, because we want to see our students succeed. Like the fact that this teacher would say that they're not going to amount to anything. If you don't believe in these kids, they're not going to believe in themselves. You have to be that light, be that person who's going to stand behind them, be that person who is going to believe in them. They need that person in their lives. They need that adult in their lives. And that for a teacher to say something like that to a student, it breaks my heart. It really does. But this student, against all odds, against what the teacher said, guess what? They still graduated. They did what that teacher said they could never do. It must feel good to be able to show that teacher that you graduated, for real. Like it must feel kind of good to be like, yeah, look at me now. So shout out to that student. I really hope that you are successful in everything that you hope to be, and know that you can be successful in anything you put your mind to. Oh my gosh. Okay, these last two stories are kind of crazy. This next story, I'm like a little nervous. It's like really crazy. Okay. You guys ready? Okay. It's kind of cringy. I had an English teacher in high school who was past her prime, let's just say. One of my friends decided it was a good idea to distract our teacher to get her out of the classroom. This was at the end of the school year, so she had just been making us watch movies and be quiet, which was a pretty normal thing. While she was gone, my friend took out the movie that she had playing and put in an inappropriate adult film and paused the VHS so that when she came back, she would have to turn it on and see it. Once she came in and she saw it, the rest was a blur, but I do know that he only got summer school for a few days. Okay. Wow. See, this is why teenagers are so frustrating sometimes, because they do some of the stupidest things for no reason. Okay, so first let's touch on the fact of what a VHS is. So this must have been from a long time ago, because the last time I remember seeing a VHS TV in a classroom was when I was like 6 years old, which would have been in like the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003. So before we had smart TVs and Netflix and Hulu and YouTube TV, all of those places that we can just turn on our TV and like on a smart TV and just watch from there, we had DVD players and we had VHS tapes. So a VHS is kind of the same idea as a DVD, except it came before DVDs. They were much more clunky. So if you've ever seen an old TV, you know they were very clunky, very heavy. And so a VHS was, wait, what does it stand for? video. I need to look it up. Oh my God, that's going to bug me. VHS meaning. See, the fact that like I was born in 1996. So, okay, video home system. Wow. The fact that I didn't know that was kind of embarrassing. But same idea as a DVD, except a lot clunkier. So the VHS like cassette tape was like, I can't do it with both hands, but it was, pretty big like this. And it was like a rectangle. And there was, oh my gosh, I literally just had this word in my mind. Video film. Oh my gosh. There's film inside of it. So you would put the tape into the VHS player and then it would play the movie for you. So that's what that is. So oh my gosh. High school boys, like, they do the stupidest things and say the stupidest things. And we all know that. And if I was the teacher here, I would have been absolutely mortified. I probably would have just walked out and never come back, honestly, if that had happened in my room. Like, that is just so disrespectful on so many levels. And it's like, that the reason that the student did it was to get a reaction from the teacher. And it's just gross. Like, come on. There's a lot of other like funnier pranks that are so much less disrespectful that you could play on a teacher. Like, I have no words. It's gross and it's disgusting. Like, and the rest of the class had to like witness that. Ugh. If I'd been another student in there, I would have been so disappointed in my classmate for doing that. Like, it's gross. Like, come on. Like, be better. Just be better. Okay, that's all I have to say on that. We have one more story. So let's finish it off with our last story. I had a student that, when mad, would poop in the sink of the bathroom and then smear it all over the walls. This teacher said that she taught special education. Okay. Why does it always come back to poop? I mentioned this in one of my previous episodes, the phantom pooper at my high school. It always comes back to poop, it seems like. And of course, now this is in a special education classroom, so this could be a student who really may not have a full understanding of what they're doing. However, it sounds like it was a recurring offense. And, I do wonder, did you call the parents? I'm sure you did. Did you guys try to come up with a plan? I'm sure you did. So I'm wondering, what wasn't clicking to help this student understand that this is not something that you should be doing. Excuse me. I wonder if this student like did this at home too. Like, I don't know, but it is very unsanitary, very gross. I mean, just imagine the cleanup for that every single time the student got frustrated. So I definitely feel for you. That is obviously not something that we are necessarily trained to deal with. Like, as a teacher, I'm not really trained to deal with bathroom accidents because I teach high schoolers. So that's not really something that I'm trained to do. And it's obviously not fun for anybody involved, I'm sure, especially the janitors. Wow. So I really hope that you found a solution with that student and you were able to figure out a way to encourage him to not do that when he got frustrated. And yeah, I tell you, it always comes back to poop. Why is that? Okay. Wow. Those were some crazy, saucy stories. And I, for one, very much enjoy hearing all of your stories. So if you like this type of format for the podcast, let me know. And if there's any other types of stories or advice that you want to hear me talk about on here, I think this is a really fun way to get everybody involved in the podcast. And again, just please follow me on Instagram at Noelle of Sloths and at Spill the Ranch. That's where I will post on my story. Usually I'll post like submit crazy teaching stories, and then you can direct message me. So if you want updates about the podcast, definitely follow both of those Instagram pages. And also, if you do enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to give it a review on Spotify. If you're a Spotify listener, it definitely really will help me to get more reviews on there. And it'll help me to continue making this podcast. So as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate all of you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.